The cylinder head is a metal casting forming a major engine component that is attached to the top of the cylinder block, and it essentially serves as the lid on the pressure cooker of a diesel engine. Within the complex architecture of heavy-duty engines, this component, alongside the cylinder head gasket, is responsible for sealing the combustion chamber to develop compression and contain the massive combustion pressures inherent in diesel operation. Because these pressures are significantly higher than those in gasoline engines, these heads are ruggedly constructed and require high clamping forces using specialized head bolts. But they aren't just seals, they're structural hubs. They serve as attachment points for valve train mechanisms, fuel injectors, and various sensors, while housing intricate passageways for coolant, fuel, and oil. In the world of diesel technology, the cylinder head and its integrated valve train are the gatekeepers of engine breathing, determining how efficiently air enters and exhaust gases exit. Part 1. Classification and materials of cylinder heads. When we look at how cylinder heads are classified, we generally look at four main factors: the number of cylinders they cover, the material they're made of, the port arrangement, and the valve train layout. Historically, cast iron alloy has been the gold standard due to its superior strength, ease of manufacture, and its ability to withstand extreme temperatures without distorting. However, there's a significant shift toward aluminum in modern designs like the 6.6-liter Duramax. Aluminum is roughly 50% lighter than cast iron, which can save up to 100 pounds on a large engine. It also has higher thermal conductivity, meaning it can run about 200 degrees cooler than iron, which helps reduce those pesky oxides of nitrogen, or NOx emissions. To make aluminum durable enough for diesel pressures, manufacturers use a process called T6 treatment or precipitation hardening, where alloys like copper are mixed in and the casting is rapidly quenched to create a harder, less brittle structure. Then there's compacted graphite iron, or CGI, which you'll find in the PACCAR MX-13. CGI is essentially a super material. It offers the weight savings of aluminum, but has double the thermal fatigue resistance of standard cast iron. Now, let's talk about how the air actually moves through these heads. Most modern diesels use a cross-flow design, where intake and exhaust ports are on opposite sides. This keeps the intake air cool and allows for larger ports. Conversely, some V-type engines like the Ford's 6.7-liter Power Stroke use a reverse flow design. In this setup, the exhaust ports are inside the V of the engine. This puts the turbocharger closer to the exhaust, leading to faster response times and a smaller engine footprint. To further refine this, many light and medium-duty engines use variable intake swirl valves. At low speeds, a flap closes one port to force air through a curved path, creating a swirl that helps fuel and air mix better. At high speeds, the flap opens for maximum airflow. It's a clever way to balance clean combustion with high-end power. Part 2, the valve train and component dynamics. Moving into the heart of the head, we find the valve train. This is the system responsible for synchronizing the piston position with the opening and closing of valves. The primary actors here are the poppet valves. You'll notice the intake valve head is usually larger than the exhaust valve because we have less pressure available to push air in than we do to shove exhaust out. Most modern heavy-duty engines use 4 valves per cylinder instead of 2. This allows for a centrally located fuel injector, which provides a more uniform fuel spray and lower emissions. Interestingly, to handle the intense heat of high-performance diesel cycles, some exhaust valves are hollow and filled with sodium. Sodium melts at about 207 degrees Fahrenheit, and as a liquid, it sloshes around and carries heat away from the valve head much faster than solid steel could. A safety tip here: never cut or break a sodium-filled valve, as sodium reacts violently with water and can actually explode. The valves sit in valve guides, which are often replaceable inserts made of sintered iron. These guides need a tiny bit of oil for lubrication, but too much leads to blue smoke and carbon deposits. This is why we use positive umbrella seals on the valve stems. Below the valves are the valve seat inserts, typically made of super hard alloys like stellite. These are pressed into the head and usually machined with 3 different angles to optimize gas flow and heat transfer. If a valve is sitting too high in the seat, it's called excessive protrusion, and it can lead to the piston hitting the valve, a catastrophic failure. If it's too low or intruded, gas flow is restricted. To ensure a perfect seal, technicians sometimes use a technique called valve lapping, where an abrasive compound is used to grind a perfect contact pattern between the valve and the seat. Part 3, camshafts and actuating mechanisms. The brain of the valve train is the camshaft. It has lobes that determine valve timing, lift, and duration. In a traditional pushrod engine, the camshaft is in the block and it moves a lifter, a pushrod, then a rocker arm. However, the industry has largely moved toward overhead camshafts. Why? Simplicity and accuracy. By putting the cam in the head, we eliminate the pushrods, which can bend under the extreme pressures required to fire a unit injector, sometimes reaching 33,000 psi. Overhead cams reduce inertia, allowing for more precise timing and higher engine speeds. In some engines, like the Cummins ISX, you'll actually find two overhead cams, one for the valves and a separate beefier one just for the injectors. To keep everything in sync, we use a gear train. The crankshaft gear is exactly half the size of the camshaft gear, ensuring the cam spins at half engine speed. Timing marks are critical here. If you're off by even one tooth, the engine won't run right, or worse, the valves will hit the pistons. Some engines use scissor gears or pendulum vibration absorbers to cancel out torsional vibrations in the gear train. When it comes to the actual movement, many engines use valve bridges or crossheads. These are T-shaped components that allow one rocker arm to push down two valves simultaneously. You'll also see roller-type followers on the rocker arms to reduce friction. This is especially important for the exhaust side, where the cam has to exert tremendous force to open the valve against the leftover cylinder pressure at the end of the power stroke. Part 4. Maintenance, fasteners, and sealing. Finally, we have to look at how we keep this all together and running. Cylinder head bolts are perhaps the most critical fasteners in the engine. Many modern engines use torque-to-yield or TTY bolts. These are designed to be stretched past their elastic limit to provide a very consistent clamping force. Because they've been permanently stretched, they are one-time use only. When tightening any head, technicians use a spiral pattern, starting from the center and working out, to avoid pinching the gasket or warping the head. The gasket itself is usually a multi-layer steel or MLS design. These consist of several layers of spring steel coated in a rubbery elastomer that handles the micro-sealing of the metal surfaces. It's a far cry from the old copper and asbestos gaskets of the past. Inspection is key during service. We use dye penetrance or magnetic flux testing to find cracks, which often develop between the valve seats if the engine has overheated. We also check for warpage using a precision straight edge and feeler gauges. Typically, you can't have more than 0.006 of an inch of warp per foot. If you're diagnosing a leak, a great trick is to look for bubbles in the cooling system while the engine is running. A steady stream of bubbles often points to a failed head gasket or a cracked head allowing combustion gases to escape into the coolant. And don't forget the slobber. If an engine idles too long in cold weather, unburned fuel and soot can build up on the back of the valves. If this gunk solidifies while a valve is open, the piston can hit that valve the next time you try to start it. Regular valve lash adjustments are the final piece of the puzzle, ensuring that as parts wear, the timing and lift remain within the manufacturer's tight specifications to maintain power and fuel economy. Understanding these systems is vital for any technician because the cylinder head is where the power is made, but it's also where the most stress is managed. If you found this breakdown of engine architecture helpful for your studies or your shop work, pass it along to a colleague who might enjoy a deep dive into diesel